All right, welcome back, everybody. This is to the Tad Lowe Show with me, Tad, the Diet Coach, and my buddy. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Nigel.
Nigel
Nigel
Lowe.
Lomax.
That's right, Nigel. And hey, this is kind of a funny little thing. We were just talking, and I didn't know, and I was going to talk about it a little bit, but I just figured, hey, we'll just talk about it on the air here. I didn't know we were connected in another way, aside from me working with you as a client, but and having us being the same age. I didn't know that you worked with a former mentor of mine in industry. When I first got out of graduate school and started working in the Bay Area, I worked for a person by the name of Kaz Hashimoto, who I think he worked for one of the Japanese electronics companies first for many years, made some success, and then worked for Red Hat Linux, and then became CEO of a company that I worked for, and I worked directly for him as VP of sales. But kind of funny, kind of a small world, huh? It's just kind of a funny little thing. I didn't even because you're in technology now.
I was a Red Hat IT project manager for a year and a half there, and I loved it. And they afforded me the opportunity to go to Europe for a couple of months, and I almost transferred to Czech Republic because of Red Hat.
Oh wow! Well, then then you probably also know Philippe Tone, right? I don't know if you know. Yeah. So I worked really directly with Philippe too. He was the CTO of the company that I was working with, and him and Kaz, they sort of linked up together, and so it's kind of funny small world that we sort of. I didn't even there's the funny things you figure out on. At the last minute, I didn't even realize. I mean, I knew you worked in technology now, but I didn't know that. Kind of funny how small this the world really is. Bodybuilding world's small, and the technology world's small than people think.
Well, what, you didn't look me up? You didn't look me up on LinkedIn?
No, man, I'm not like that, man. I judge people for who I interact with, but I don't. I never. People do all this snooping around and stuff like that. Like these days, man, it's so easy to just go in and people look up people on like Facebook or social media or all these different things, LinkedIn, and it's kind of funny. Actually, they say my brother, my twin brother, who is a professor at University of Washington. Actually, he's going to be taking another position pretty soon, and next year he took an assistant dean position at the Arizona State, which is pretty awesome. He's his career's on fire. He's in academia. He's a professor. Tenured professor there at the University of Washington. And they wanted him as assistant dean position. Actually, it's one of these kind of cool stories, and I don't mean to brag about my brother, but I love my brother. But this is cool. This is how you know, in my opinion, when you made it. He went in for this interview and was talking with I think it was the provost who hired him at Arizona State, and I can't remember. I think it was the provost. And he says, "Hey, Dr. Inouye, I just want to tell you, I'm your biggest fan." when the guy who's going to hire you tells you I'm your biggest fan, man, that's the kind of interview I want to have.
That is kind of impressive. I too want to brag on my cousin right quick.
Oh, cool.
My cousin Tyler just graduated from med school, and now he is a doctor. So in my family, he is the first doctor. He's not the first doctor, but he is the first doctor. So I'm super proud of him.
Oh, well, congratulations to him.
He's already got a job and everything else. So yeah.
What did he specialize
really
in?
well.
Did he specialize in anything, or is he just doing?
I think one of his doctor is in patents, in medical patents,
Okay.
in law, and I think his second doctorate or his MD is in genetics or something to that effect.
That is cool.
So, something that is much smarter than I. So he possibly has taken over the mantle of being the smartest Lomax.
Well, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure he might.
There's two kinds of smarts in my book. There's book smarts, that's just education, that's the accumulation of knowledge, and to me, that's not nearly as impressive as true wisdom. That's when and I believe that like Einstein type of IQ type of intelligence, that you don't have to have degrees to have. So while I totally think having degrees and is very impressive, and my brother, of course, he has his PhD in English, in rhetoric and composition, and that's very impressive. But what makes him?
Tad,
yeah.
My tire blew out.
Oh wow!
I'll call you back, actually.
Oh man, well,
this is what just blew out.
Totally blew. This is what happens on when we record this stuff
totally
live.
Blew out. It totally blew out.
All right, we're back. We had to do a quick pause. It's actually 2 days later, and so you had a tire blowout, and as everybody just now know, now we're finishing this our second show here. See, this is what happens. I always believe in keeping things live and keeping things like in action. No special editing. But so you're.
Well,
That was funky, man. Your tire just blew out right in the middle of our conversation, and you were driving. You're in New York, right?
no, I was driving to Atlanta, and I
Oh.
was on the worst strip of 85 for a blowout. And a cop came. I guess somebody called and said, "Hey, this guy looks like he might be in distress." And a cop came up from behind, and I have to say, given what's happening, events in the world and everything, and how people have a bad impression of cops, and I have been, I've like been party to having some experiences that have been discriminatory.
Being a black man in America, that is just in case people don't
Exactly,
know. Is that what you mean?
exactly. Being a black man in America and then getting pulled over by the cops, I have to say that this cop was excellent. He was great. He actually held up traffic for me, made sure that no one ran into the car, and he asked me about workout tips, and he was a great guy. So not every cop is bad. I mean, he had a great disposition. He did me a great favor because, to tell you the truth, I was on possibly the worst part of 85 that you can be on, and be like on a feeder lane.
Oh, good. Well, that's always good to hear because I don't like hearing. I always, I remember when I was in college, the first time I had one of my friends from the gym actually told me about. He was from. Well, I went to college in Oregon, so it's a homogeneous state. It's not exactly multicultural, at least not where I lived in Corvallis, Oregon, where I was going to school, Oregon State. And he was a black guy. He worked for UPS, and one of my friends from the gym. He's a great guy, and he was telling me, "Oh yeah, because he was from I think the LA area, so he had gotten some experiences." And it shocked me to even hear. I was so oblivious at like 19 years old, 20 years, 20, I think I was 21 maybe. I was so oblivious to those kinds of issues because even though I'd grown up in sort of the hood of Vegas, I was in North Las Vegas, I didn't really experience that kind of stuff, like I didn't really experience, getting pulled over for no reason just because somebody profiled me. Although I take that back. I did get my first week in Corvallis there. I remember I was 17, I was riding my bike. And I look very ethnic, like more Hispanic probably, but even though I'm not Hispanic, I looked like I had long black hair, spiked, very different from everybody else there probably. And I was riding my bike to pick up my cousin at the bus stop. Again, I was just turned 17. Just turned 17. And a policeman just pulled me over. And he's like, "Hey, you matched the description of somebody that we were looking for. Who are you? What's your name?" He took all these notes. I'm like, "I'm just here to pick up my cousin." Bus stop. but I didn't think much of it, until later. And I'm like, man, that was kind of weird. I was like, wow, why would I get questioned? And he just wanted. I know it was just trying to figure out who the hell I was. He hadn't seen me before. Not a big town, little college town, so. I get it. He wasn't mean to me or anything like that, but so I didn't really think too much of it. And then looking back, it's I guess some people, it depends on who you are. I suppose it can be a little offsetting, right?
Well, yeah, and I didn't really grow up in this country, so I never experienced racism until I was in my 40s, actually. So I was one of those that grew up kind of like, because I always went to predominantly white schools. And I lived in a predominantly white neighborhood most of my life. So I grew up thinking everything was completely rosy. There was no racism after my parents, So, and I realized that my parents experienced it because both of my parents were civil rights leaders, and most of the people that I was surrounded around were part of the movement when I was growing up. But I figured they paved the way so I didn't have to experience racism. But when I turned, 40s, especially in the last couple of years, I have recently, felt racism. But I like to tell people, basically that racism is, has always been around. It's whether or not it's overt or, or not. And I think the interesting thing about it is I think that the conversation should not be let's cover up racism, but actually let's use what's happening today to actually talk about racism and what gets that person to a point of having to hate one person over another person. Because let's face it, every race has their bias. And, no one is immune from racist thoughts. It's whether or not you want to understand those racist thoughts and understand why, why they're generated and why they're not needed in society.
Absolutely. I think also it's important to know that, I think, now, some people may have a different opinion about this, but I think that most racism stems from a fear, right? Fear of the unknown, fear of somebody you don't know, or fear of uncomfortability, but fear. And I think, that in my mind, like fear doesn't have any place in my world for making choices and decisions. I believe that always leads to bad places. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know. I mean, there's obviously many different reasons why people experience and why people have the kinds of opinions and views they do. I'm not here to tell anybody how to think. I just think there are certain kinds of perspectives that really don't benefit anybody. Racism benefits nobody. As a matter of fact, it takes value away from everyone's experience, and most of all the people who are pushing it forward. And they don't. And it's sort of it's sad because I know I've been on the butt end of it, and I just have chosen to take the perspective, especially as a kid, growing up Asian and looking very, very Asian growing up and different than my friends. Because I kind of, even though I grew up sort of in a white family, like my mom was more Caucasian in nature, and I kind of thought I was until my friends were very, very apt to point out that I wasn't. And that was kind of weird. That was different. I guess I just didn't think it really made much of a difference. Like to me, as a child growing up, I didn't. My brother took a different stance. I think it hit him harder, so he actually ended up with a career in rhetoric and composition in the academia, and he talks about it, writes about it, and he's very influential in that respect with his voice, speaking against these kinds of things. Me, I kind of prefer to move toward the things that I really like that I think are good, instead of focusing on the elements in my culture, in my society, in my experience that I don't like. To me, that sits better with me, and I find a better percentage in that. But no matter what you choose to do, I think that everybody wants to be treated fairly, and everybody should, no matter what. And I think that especially in a society that where we prize being innocent until proven guilty, I think we should actually. I think it's a good idea to honor that. In general.
Oh, no. I completely agree with you. I mean, I'm somewhere in the middle of all of that between your brother and you, because I've got the triple hit. I'm Jewish, I'm gay, and I'm black. So
triple whammy.
So it's kind of like, yeah, So when you have the triple whammy, you also you're taught that you cannot be thin-skinned. That's one, and you're also taught that you cannot convert everyone, meaning you cannot convert them not being homophobic or a bigot or anti-Semite. And, sometimes you can sit down and have a conversation with someone and actually make them think. Now, not necessarily make them change their mind. I think that once you are a bigot or an anti-Semite or, xenophobic or a homophobe, it takes stages for you to go through a progression of being enlightened. And I think that people, even though they have these tendencies and they have hatred and everything, they're entitled to having to go through their stages, in peace, and not have it be a stage of violence and people yelling at them about how wrong they are. I think society today, when we disagree with each other, we yell at each other and we call each other names instead of having polite conversation or diplomatic conversation about why we disagree about things. Now, we may not agree about anything by the end of the conversation, but we have to be good with that. At least each person, each side has gotten their opinion out, and they've gotten their opinion out without anger and without violence. And that's all I really want to do, is like spark a conversation about, bigotry and, or racism in a way that is, enlightening, it's peaceful, and it's about exchange of ideas, and it's about accepting people for who they are. I mean, because everybody wants to be accepted for who they are, but if we're all yelling at each other and saying, well, who you are is inappropriate, then who am I to ask for you to accept me, and think of me in a different way if I can't even do this, if I can't even respect you enough to have a conversation about why you and I are separated from each other.
Well, yeah, I mean, kind of funny. What always gets me is, and I've said this before in other places, that why do people care so much? Especially when it comes to what other people think, because a lot of people get really upset over certain ideas and that other people don't agree with or whatnot, politically, religiously. It's like they get really, really, really offended. And to be offended by somebody else's idea seems to me to be really quite childish. I personally have the latitude to accept that every single person on this planet may not agree with me, and I'm okay with that. I don't think that people should infringe on other people's rights or their freedoms or on their health either, like hurting other people and things of that nature. But I do give people the latitude to believe what they want. If you want to believe that, in whatever religious perspective or whatever personal perspective that you want to hold, that's fine. I really don't care. Like, go for it. But to be upset that I don't agree or that I don't share the same opinion, or even for that matter, the same skin color or the same eye color or the same sexual orientation or the same whatever. Why do you care so much? Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I really don't get it.
I don't get it either. I mean, I think I told you about, I was on Facebook and I read, this guy had this this video about someone who was transgender who was suggested by psychiatrists to go ahead and change their sex, which, that's idiotic. That's not something that that's not something that medically they go, hey, here's the solution. You change sex. So right there, that's not really, rooted in medical, thought right there. There's all sorts of things that have to happen before you do that. But the video was a very self-serving video. It was extremely hateful. And so the guy put a caption that said, he basically said, I've been doing a lot of research in this, and I've come to the conclusion that homosexuality is a life choice. So I sent him, I replied and I said, why do you care so much? I don't care about your sexuality. I'm not awake at night going, oh gosh, why can't he be gay? Why can't he? Because I just don't understand why he won't come into the fold. I'm like, why are you doing research on homosexuality? Unless you're thinking in terms of you want to be more educated or what have you, why are you trying to disprove whatever about homosexuality? And why are you trying so hard? Is this like your life dream, or are you pent up? And, and you believe that by proving that homosexuality is like, a choice that maybe you're not gay. I'm like, man, I have other things to do other than worry about your sexuality.
Yeah, exactly.
And so stop worrying about mine. I'm okay.
Or anyone's for that matter. I mean, like, exactly. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it seems like a complete waste of time, personally. And whether or not you believe what you believe about it, it's still, at the end of the day, nobody cares whether I pick up rolled oats or steel cut oats in the grocery store. Why would they care about if I'm fucking this person or this person? It doesn't, it's my choice. These are all my personal choices. Exactly. So I'm kind of in the same ballpark there, that I just don't. I think that people make an issue out of it because they want to, and they kind of feel like, and their reasons may be for various things. And I'm sure everybody feels for whatever reasons. Well, first of all, I hear different arguments, and I think people just use whatever argument feels the most powerful for them. Like, oh, I don't want my kids growing up in schools with like homosexuals and blah, blah. Well, guess what? Society is going to be filled with people who have a difference of opinion, difference of orientation, difference of whatever, and you're not going to eliminate that. As a matter of fact, I personally prefer to have my daughter, interact with people of multicultural, multi-ideas. I don't want her seeing the same monotone crap. Because then how is she going to be moved to be unique and to be her own self, to be able to make her own choices? We don't want to be making choices because we don't know of any others. We want to be making choices because they're uniquely ours. They're the shit that we want. They're the stuff that we find value in for ourselves, and that has more power, not because it's the only choice in the supermarket of ideas. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, my best friends from college, they had a kid at a later age, and they're Roman Catholics, and they lived for a really long time in California. And one of the reasons why they loved living in California was because their child got to see so many different cultures and everything. They moved to Pittsburgh, and they thought, okay, well, now he won't see that many cultures and everything. And it turned out he did, because his parents surrounded him with different cultures, different foods, made sure that, he went to different events and everything else. When he turned 11 years old, I think it was 10 years old, I came out to him. And it was almost like, whatever. And then he looked at me and he goes, I already knew this.
You're not hiding anything, Nigel.
Exactly. He's like, I already knew this. And I was like, well, how did you know? And he goes, well, you have been, you come every year and you never talk about having a girlfriend. You never talk about having any friend whatsoever. And you're in your 40s. You're old.
Old, so, dude, thanks.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he said to me. He goes, well, you're in your 40s and you're old. You should be married by now. And so I just figured, and I have a friend, and he's got two dads. So I figured possibly that you were gay. So when you told me, I was like, yeah, okay.
I already figured it out, man.
Yeah, so I mean, but. His parents, though, are possibly one of the most liberal people in the whole entire world, and they happen to be Republicans, but they're extremely liberal as far as socially. Because when I came out to them, it was not a big deal. When I converted to Judaism, the only issue that they had was the fact that I couldn't eat pork. Now that
they're like, man, you're not gonna be able to eat our pork chops.
Exactly. Yeah, because they love to cook. They're both Italians, and they love to cook.
Gotcha.
And so, when I told them, his wife called me up and she goes, "Hey, I've been reading up on the Jewish faith, and you don't eat pork, right?" And I said, "No, I don't eat pork." And she goes, "Okay, well, we won't have pork when you visit." And then I get this phone call from her husband. He goes, "Listen, I heard the saddest news I've ever heard today." And I said, "What?" And he goes,
"Can't eat pork."
"You do not eat pork." Exactly. He's like, "Is that real? Can you suspend it for a day?"
Like, no, dude. Sorry, bro. Can't do it.
I'm like, "Sorry, can't like suspend it for a day?" And he goes, "But that's so sad, right?" And the funny part is, I've never eaten pork before.
Oh.
I mean, I don't like pork. Yeah, so it's not. So I don't think he remembers that I've never been fond of pork.
It's only sad because he probably enjoys pork so much.
Oh my God, she loves pork. Are you kidding me? I mean, yeah.
My girlfriend's the same way. She's a big bacon eater, and I like bacon, and I don't eat it a ton, but I like it. But it's just kind of funny because it's like her favorite food.
Yeah, it's their favorite. Apparently, it's their favorite food too, because there was a moment of silence.
We're going to observe a moment of silence for you, Nigel.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, they didn't even have pork at the house when I came to visit, and I'm getting ready to go and visit there because I'm going to go and see North Americans in 2 weeks. And I said, listen, this time when I come, I didn't say you couldn't cook pork around me. I just meant
I just said I'm not going to eat it.
Exactly. You can't put pork in my food, but if you guys want to eat sausage, don't care. It's not going to offend my sensibilities. It's okay.
Well, speaking of bodybuilding and North Americans and all that stuff, today we're going to talk about the Olympia, and we were going to talk a little bit. We were going to talk about some of the, I think, where there were some of the results of the Tampa Pro, so we can sort of briefly go over some of that. And I think we talked in our first episode about the 212 division, but they hadn't. We had recorded the day before, on Friday, so on Saturday they had the open division. And I guess Sergio Oliva Jr. got second, and who got Rivera, right? Got first.
Yep. And Alexis Rivera looked great. I think that both of those guys are a little undersized for the Olympia. Both of them did qualify. Of course, Alexis qualified because he won.
Right.
Sergio qualified because of points. And then Justin Rodriguez, which I believe was fourth, he actually qualified too because he qualified as the top vote getter. And out of those three guys, as far as Olympia's showing, if Justin Rodriguez actually comes in leaner, he is going to do better than Sergio Oliva and Alexis, whatever. Yeah. So that's that's my point of view on that.
Well, I think when it comes to the Olympia, we'll just dig right into that. When it comes to I think this now, my 2 cents. Everybody knows pretty much how I feel. At least everybody knows who's talked to me. I really don't think. I think there's only really two people, and I'm saying two as a slight stretch, not really, but that give Phil Heath a run this year. And I hate to say it like that because it sounds like he's going to have a run for his money, but he's not. I don't really think he will. I think he's going to walk away with number 8. I think he'll also walk away with number 9, and I think he'll walk away. That's my prediction. But I think, to be honest, I think Sean Roden is. I still think he's got one of the best potential to be in the top 2 and 3. I think he can win it if he puts everything together. I don't know if he will. I hope he will. I love Sean, and I think he's a great guy, and I think he's a fantastic bodybuilder. I think he's got the right kind of material to be able to do it. We'll see. But the guy who I think has the best chance this year, to be honest, man, I was hiding this opinion for a while, but I just couldn't help it. But Brandon Curry, dude, he looks incredible.
Yeah.
The dude looks like the next Mr. Olympia. I'm sorry, to me, he looks like the next Mr. Olympia.
I tell you one thing, he looks incredible. I thought that there's in the Open, there are 3 athletes that actually look so incredible on the 5-week turn, and one of them is Brandon Curry. That posing video, even though it's dark, is phenomenal. That silhouette and that tiny waist that he has, and he brought up his legs, and and he's got these full muscle bellies, and he's already really, really lean. I mean, you can see striations and cuts. I mean, and he poses well. You can see that Chris Cormier, I believe, is working on his posing and everything. He is right on track. And, of course, I sent you some pictures of Charles Griffin that I think he'll be a star in the making, even though you disagree.
No, I think he looks incredible. I just don't know. I haven't really seen him live in competition, so I always hold judgment on being the rooting fan. But I'm
telling you, he will be the Nathan Deasher of the Olympia, I believe.
Really, you think so?
I think he will be. I really do. And the other one, Rolly's. I don't know what you say about Rolly's pictures, other than
freaky.
That's just super crazy.
Yeah, him and Rick James. I think Rick James, if he was still alive, he would be the model for Super Freak. I mean, he is really, really just super freak, man. The dude's freaky, but it's just too bad he's got like a waistline of a bear, man. He's like it's just thick, and he poses like crap. He's done better with his posing. So I would say that his posing's improved a bit. I know they've been working with him on some of that stuff, but I don't really like his physique all that much. I think he's got impressive body parts, but bodybuilding's more than just impressive body parts. That's like saying Rich Piana could get a pro card, and we all know that he never got one. But fucking really impressive, and I like Rich. He was a good guy. He was a nice guy, but an impressive bodybuilder. But there's a difference between having impressive body parts and having an impressive physique that can win shows, and especially win the Olympia. And I don't think that Rolly can win the Olympia. Never in my book. Now, unless all the good people left. It's like,
I don't.
But top five, yes. Top five, yes.
I think top five he's going to make. I think for sure he'll make top five. I think Brandon will for sure make top five.
Oh, if Brandon gets less than second or third, I would be disappointed.
I'd be shocked, exactly. But I mean, I agree with you that Rolly, had a stomach issue and everything else, but I saw improvement, especially in Europe, the Arnold Europe. I thought he did a fantastic job. If he comes in with that physique a little tighter, maybe 5 more pounds off of that physique, I think he will look awesome.
I haven't. The one guy I haven't seen any pictures of lately is William Bonnick. So
I saw pictures of him earlier today. And they're only showing his upper body, but I think he looks. If you look at his pictures at 5 weeks from the Arnold, and now he is ahead of his Arnold pace.
Okay.
So he should look really good. He all indications look like he will be better, a little tiny bit better than he was at the Olympia last year. And if he is, he's still top 3. I mean, in anybody's book. The only thing that I didn't see was enough back shots, because sometimes he has to create width, and because he's a shorter guy, so his posing I think needs to change a little tiny bit, so he's a little bit more noticed.
Right.
He pops up at you a little bit more.
So
some guys have that problem.
So let's do some predictions here. Let's just do top 5. Who do you have for the top 5 when all the dust settles in the Open at the Olympia? Who do you have top 5?
So am I picking the winner as well, or
this again, now no one's going to hold us to this. Don't put odds in Vegas on this. This is just who's our best guess based on what we see, past history, and our gut. What does your gut tell you?
Okay, now. People have been mentioning that if you don't say something, you don't say that person's going to be in the top 5, that you're a hater. I am not a hater.
This is just you only got 5 spots. I mean, there's 20 great bodybuilders, exactly. 30 great. You only got 5 spots to pick. Can't pick everybody. Who's your 5?
Okay, so I've got order. Rami winning.
Yeah, Rami winning.
I got Rami winning. I got 2 with Heath.
Okay.
I've got 3 with Brandon Curry. I've got 4 with William Bonnick, and I've got 5 Rolly Winkler.
Okay. I get that. Mine's relatively similar, but not quite. I would say 5 Rolly, 4. I have. Let's see. I have Rami 4. I have William Bonnick 3. I have Brandon Curry 2 and Phil Heath 1.
Wow.
Yeah. You got to put him somewhere.
Brandon Curry all the way to 2. Wow.
Yep, I do. I really do. I think next year, if he makes half of the improvement that he's made this last 9 months, then he'll beat Phil. That's what I see.
I agree. And you know what? If I were Brandon Curry, I would continue going out to Kuwait. That's one.
I think I'd move there.
Exactly. If they would have all of my kids and everything else, I would probably move there. I would never do the Arnold at all. No disrespect to the Arnold, because I love the Arnold. but he is the type of guy that I think needs to rest his body and everything, and to make slow progress throughout the year. Because, you know, you see the last 2 years when he's done that and everything, he's looked phenomenal. When he's actually done like 2 or 3 shows and everything, he comes off a little bit flat. So I think he's one of those guys that needs to rest up for the year and make steady improvements. But, yeah, I agree with you. I think Brandon Curry, you know, people have predicted that Brandon Curry was going to be the, you know, the
Oh, I know. I remember when he was doing the USAs and before he got his pro card. And I remember, because I know him and his wife, and they're wonderful people. I love him to death. And and he was, but he's really pulled everything together in the last year and a half, 2 years almost. And whether it be going out to Kuwait and doing magic out there, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. He's pulled it together in the last 18 months and really transformed into what everybody thought he could. So for whatever reasons why, I mean, he's always been a fantastic, great bodybuilder, but he's really, really done some magic in the last, I mean, and I don't know what it is, but no matter what, it's awesome. And he's on a trajectory that is just going to, man, I don't, it's hard for me to see. It's hard for me to see, like, it's hard for me to see anybody else. They haven't really done the same kind of thing. Now, some of the people that have done some close work to this, Rolly, he's done some close work to this. He's very impressive. The guy who's impressed me year after year in the last 3 years has been William Bonnick. He's really, really, but I think he's got a stature limitation. So my guess is, and the reason why I have him down on that list is because last year I would have said second place. Or close, you know, but this year I can't because he just loses. He doesn't have the same stature. And when you stack these guys next to each other in 3 dimensions, I just think, and I could be wrong about this. Again, we'll see the day of the show, right? We'll see when we get, because all bets are off when you see things in 3D right there. I'll be there backstage. I'll be there at the show, watching and reporting, and I will. Everything could look different. Because I always tell people who love to give their commentary after the fact with just seeing 2-dimensional pictures on social media or from some of the outlets, the media outlets, and it doesn't do it justice half the time. So it doesn't really do it justice. But no. So when you see in 3D, because that's what's always impressed me. The one person that looks, oftentimes in my opinion, the one person that looks better in pictures or more impressive in pictures is Rami. When he's on stage, something happens, and I don't know, and he just loses this awesome sort of impressive nature. It's not that he's not impressive, because he is, but he's got to bring it out somehow. There's something, he's losing something in the translation, but he is getting better. He's getting better with his presentation.
I will tell you the most impressive thing I have ever seen in bodybuilding, and I was not around during Dorian Yates' reign. I was alive, but I was a child. Was Rami at the New York Pro, his debut.
I was there.
The most important thing I have ever seen in my life. And you were there, and everybody was quiet. There was a hush.
Crickets.
And I actually was sitting right by Victor Martinez's group. And Victor came out. Victor looked great and everything, and then all of a sudden, Rami came out, and one of Victor's crew said, "It's over now." I mean, they were like, "It's over," and that's exactly the way I felt. I was like, "It's over." I mean, everybody else might as well just, try for number 2. But to me, that look was a great look on him. If you get him more conditioned. If he came out with that look and more conditioned and a lot with muscle maturity, I think no one can beat him. But I don't see why. The problem that I have is I don't see why they need him to get 320 something or 330 pounds.
I don't know if they really need him to. I just think that he can, so he's doing it. That's just a guess, but and he doesn't have. The funny thing is that if he didn't have that quality about his persona, his physique, then he wouldn't be impressive as impressive, because he's certainly not impressive when it comes to conditioning, although he's not horrible in the conditioning department. It's just not, you're not like William Bonnick, you're like, whoa. But with Rami, it's really more of a size thing. The problem is that somehow, I don't know, there's something gets lost in the translation because he can't maintain the impressive nature. I don't know if it's, so we'll see because when I spoke with,
I also think it's the posing as well.
Okay.
I think that he has to pose strong, and I think that some of the posing selections, other than last year, I thought last year's posing routine was a strong routine for him.
It was.
But to me, he needs to come out like he has like snatched somebody's lunch.
I like that.
And I mean, he just needs to come out like, if I didn't snatch it, I am going to snatch it now. I just think that if he came out with confidence, like, you cannot beat me. If you notice, Phil, when he comes out, even if he comes out and he's not good, he comes out looking like, all of you can go home. I have entered in the room.
I actually really like when he comes out. It's really kind of impressive. He kind of sort of shrugs his shoulders and shakes his shoulders up and down a little bit, and you can see the muscle kind of moving on his frame, and it's awesome. It's like, and then he kind of has his head down and he looks up, and you can tell that he's somewhere inside. It's like, yeah, motherfuckers, it's on. Like, yeah.
Exactly. And I think, I think that Rami is such a nice guy.
Oh, tremendous.
That it translates on stage that I'm such a nice guy that I don't want to eat your lunch. I really do want you to like me because I'm really a nice guy, sort of thing. And Rolly has that personality too, but Rolly is more so, he's aggressive about that.
Oh.
He's more of an aggressive, you need to like me sort of guy.
I think,
he's more engaging as well.
I would put it like, Phil's like, give me that. And Rami's like, give me that, please.
Exactly. Or can I please have that? What we would call him is he's very Canadian.
Oh, right,
so
sure.
He poses like a Canadian,
Well, when I was in Kuwait last year in October, I was judging the Kuwait Classic, and I was talking to Bader Budai, and I said, "What's good?" And we were talking about the Olympia, and he was saying, "Wait until the Olympia." He says, "Rami's going to win this next year." He said, "I know it. I could feel it. I know what's happening." And so I'm like, "Okay, cool." I was like, "Oh, wow, okay." He seemed pretty confident, and so in the pictures I've seen so far, I can see why he feels that way. I mean, I also understand that, if he can't believe in his own people, then who can? But when I look at Rami and all these guys in the top 5 that we just mentioned, the one that sticks out this year so far. Now, again, not all bets are off when everybody hits the stage because who knows what could happen. But Brandon, man, oh my God, have you seen the pictures? These recent, like on his Instagram, he's posted a couple pictures, and they're not even like, they're not highly doctored up or anything. It's just, I'm like, whoa, dude, what have you been doing? He's been eating everybody else's lunch, I think.
Well, I have to mention this, but Chris Aceto thinks that they pose in front of a magic mirror. And that is the magic mirror that he's posing in front of. But, that doesn't negate.
That don't mean nothing.
Exactly. And that also does not negate the posing footage that we saw, I believe, in the Czech Republic. I think it was in the Czech Republic, I think it was there. That doesn't negate that. I mean, that is some impressive posing footage. But I noticed that neither one of us has Nathan Diasha in our top 5.
And he's not, I didn't think he was competing. I thought he was out.
Nathan?
Yeah,
no, Nathan's in.
He was injured, I thought.
No, he was injured, but it wasn't a serious injury, and Nathan's in.
Well, my prediction was based on Nathan being injured, and so and I think I still kind of hold true to it. And it's mostly because I haven't seen anything from Nathan, but I'll tell you that I do really like Nathan, not only as a person but as a bodybuilder. I think he has some of the best potential. He's a little young right now. I think he needs another year. Yeah. I think that he needed to stay with the Camel crew over there. I don't know. they've been doing some really nice stuff. I think that the magic there is not, there's nothing in the soup there. There's nothing in the chicken. They're not giving them extra any special drugs nobody else is getting. I think it has more to do with that. Because I was there, man, in Kuwait, and I seen what's going on over there. And man, like you're not, it's not about, there's no chicks going on over there, bro. I mean, like you're not having, there's no, so you're not going out and doing that shit, and they're not going out and doing anything else. It's all about bodybuilding. He's got him hooked up in a place, his own, like he owns an apartment building or something, and he hooks them up there with a nice place. They get their food. You got the gym right there. It's all they do. It's eat, sleep, train, bodybuilding, win, win, win. And like, what a formula. Right, like they got a doctor that lives there, that takes care of anything they got going on there. If they got, get sick or something. I mean, it's all taken care of. So it's a good formula for staying very focused. And if I've always said anything about motivation, half of motivation is all about your focus. If you can stay focused, you'll get what you want. You'll get it. And so this is a really good testament to focus, I think.
Well, I think that, the reason why he left was because he's opening up 2 gyms. So he's thinking about his future, which makes sense. He's opening up 2 gyms, and, he went from Yamamoto to Muscle Meds. And he said, it was because Muscle Meds is, one, will get his name out in the United States a little bit more. And, he was he is the face of the company. And that Yamamoto didn't really care whether or not he got his face out, and he got his business or his the rest of his afterlife or his other than the stage career going, which I thought was kind of interesting that he said that, because Flex is with Yamamoto, and Flex does a lot of PR for Yamamoto. So, I wondered, what is the difference between Flex's contract and Nathan's contract, that they couldn't make that work in Kuwait. But, another thing is he's got 2 kids. I think he's got 2 kids, and he probably wants to spend more time with them as well. And being in Liverpool and having his two gyms and his
now, I thought he was moving. I thought that Nathan was moving to the States here. When I spoke,
he's opening up 2 gyms and they're mostly Arsenal equipment in England, in the UK.
When I spoke with him in Kuwait, he was still with Bader and everybody there back last year, October. He and I sat down, had a nice conversation, and his plans were to move to the States so he could be closer to his guest posing and closer to the events and people. That was his plan, but he didn't. Nothing was like he had secured anything yet, but that was his plan. He was planning that. So I maybe if that's changed. He must have gotten some opportunity. I know that somebody told me, and I don't know, can't remember if it was him or somebody else, that he was concerned at the time about, or at least he was put a priority on business, on making money and really making this into a business venture or a successful lifestyle for him so that he could, provide for his family and all that good stuff. And that I understand, being the age he's at, I can totally understand that would be a primary concern of yours. Because I remember when I was in my 20s, it was all about making a living, right? It's like earning money, making sure I got some security and had money and all this jazz. So I hope it works out to his favor. I hope that, my guess is that when you start dividing your energy like that, it gets tougher to. There's a reason why these days these guys who are really making these really great strides, like Brandon, they're in their 30s. They're already gotten past that stage,
Exactly.
And they can focus all their energy on this, on being number one, on being making the improvements, being not necessarily on making a paycheck.
Well, I think that Matt Jensen is a great trainer, and I think that they work well together. I think that if he doesn't have, if he can compartmentalize all of the other things that are going on, much like somebody like Flex Lewis does, then he should be successful. I don't really think that he'll be in the top 5 only because his New York Pro was okay, but it wasn't, he didn't really blow it out of the park. And then the California Pro, he got tighter and everything, but it wasn't super impressive. Like when he was at the New York Pro, maybe the year before, where I thought he was extremely impressive and should have like placed higher. So that's the reason why I didn't have him in the top 5. I saw the guest posing and everything, and I thought he looks in really great conditioning, and he definitely does really hard work. But if I had to say who impressed me more out of all of the guest posing and all the pictures that I've seen, I'd have to say Brandon Curry, hands down. Just completely impressive.
Hands
in
down.
The Open. Now, hands down in the Open, he is hands down the most impressive. Now, I preface that by saying I have not seen Sean Roden because he always has on a tracksuit, which I think is very smart, by the way, extremely smart. And I don't know why more guys don't do it.
Why do you say that?
Other than, I think that the element of surprise and not showing your opponent, what you have underneath your sweatsuit until it's time is just a good strategy. Because, let's face it, Sean is under the radar. He could creep in and just ruin people's day. They don't know what he looks like, and nobody's been talking about it, really.
Well, absolutely, but I would disagree in one respect, and I agree that anyone could sneak in and ruin somebody's day, ruin all their days. But in this day and age of social media and how influential some of these kinds of these things are in the sport in terms of it works to your disadvantage. I have to say, I think it does. Now, again, this is my personal opinion, but I think it works to athletes' disadvantage to not really give people, their fans and judges and people who are really looking at this, because these are hard choices. So I think it does disservice. I really do, because he needs to let everyone know that he's serious. He needs to let everyone know what's going on. And because otherwise, these days, the days of Dorian Yates' style of hiding the shadow for 9 months and then coming out and killing, they're over. It's done. And now, I could be wrong, but I just don't think I've done this for so many years, worked with so many athletes, and all of them want to do this kind of style because they either admire Dorian, they admire these kinds of tactics because I want to just go in there and I want to surprise everyone. I'm going to surprise the world. No, you're not. You're not going to surprise anybody. It's great. You know how many surprises we've gotten in the last 20 years? 2. Rami and really a small, tiny handful. And you're not. You probably won't be one. Maybe, hopefully, but probably not. But a better tactic is to be consistent. Show what you got. Get out there. Show people you're working hard. Like a great example in my book, Josh Wade. I know Josh, great guy. Not going to win. Not going to be in the top 10 probably. But man, is he doing good work? Fuck yeah, he's doing good work. He's doing great work.
Oh yeah, you know what? I love his work ethic, and I'm a work ethic sort of guy, and I love his work ethic. I don't think his physique is going to get him into the top 10, but the fact that he's an Olympia, just purely on sweat, is just amazing to me. But I agree with you in some respect. The thing about it is that Sean is putting out content. He's putting out it. You can see him train. The only problem is he's training in a sweatsuit. I don't know how big that sweatsuit is.
Well,
but the sweatsuit makes him look really small. So, in people's minds, I get what you're saying, because in my mind, when I see the training footage, I go, oh, he's not really that big.
Right.
You can't really get the enormity of who he is when he has on a sweatsuit.
There is some value in my mind. I think there is some value to an athlete who can build some momentum in the fans, in the excitement, in the anticipation. This is still an entertainment sport. I don't care where nobody's scoring touchdowns. Even football is an entertainment sport. If it didn't entertain people, they wouldn't watch it. So it's still an entertainment sport. And you only help two things. You help the sport so much by adding the value that you can add by building this anticipation, building up this. I mean, everybody said for several years, oh, I wish Kai Green would compete. Why? Not because he would become Mr. Olympia, although many people hoped for that or wished for that or thought he was worthy of that, but because it would add value to the Olympia title. It would add value to the competition. It would give people something to go to the Olympia for, right? To go see these epic battles that everybody loves to talk about afterwards. And we would talk about the ones like, you name it, like Arnold and Sergio and Lee Haney, Lee Labrada, or whatever, you name the people who in the history of bodybuilding or any sport with these really big epic battles between two players, two people, because we can identify with that kind of thing as people, as individuals, and it makes it interesting. It's not as interesting when you don't know who anyone looks like, you don't know who's coming, it's like, okay, well, should I go to the Olympia this year? That's
good. I would be disappointed if everybody did that. I think Sean is probably doing it in order to have some shock value because he knows that nobody's.
Well, there's also one other thing. To me, it also says, okay, I can understand that some people just want to they want to put their nose down and do some work. Okay, I can see that. But to do it to surprise, to me, it feels like when I look at Nathan, and I love Nathan, so I hope if Nathan's listening, I don't want him to feel like I'm bagging on him. But when I look at his like Instagram, especially the last like 10 posts or whatever, leading up to the Olympia, if he's doing the Olympia, which if you say he is, I thought he wasn't, but then it looks to me like he's covered up. Sean Roden covered up. If you're covered up, then if it was me, I'm thinking I was looking like Brandon. Look at Brandon's. Look at the stuff he's posted. Like you're like, I want to show, hey, dude, I'm coming. You guys better be ready. I got nothing to hide. I'm going to go there because I'm going to win. If I'm going to win, I'm going to win. Phil Heath does the same thing. Don't got nothing to hide. If I'm going to win, I'm going to win. It's not going to be because I'm going to surprise people. This is not like a fight, okay? I don't care. Everybody wants to think of it like a battle. This isn't a fight, okay? If it was a fight, I could sucker punch you, right? And surprise your ass. But no. There's no sucker punching here. You're either going to have a better physique or you're not, okay? The judges are going to sit there and they're going to evaluate, right? And they're not going to be like, oh my gosh, I was so surprised that I had to give it to him. No, they're not. They're going to be like, they're going to evaluate based on who's the better physique. You show it off. You got it. You don't. You don't. And so when I see somebody covering up, it just tells me you don't got it. You don't got it.
Well, I think a couple of things about Sean. I don't think that he's going to be in the top 5, and I have a tremendous respect for Sean because Sean is one of those guys that had bad times. I guess around his 30s, and then pretty much came back to the sport and everything. And there's a whole article about it that Flex put out a couple of years ago about it, and his journey is admirable, and he seems like a really great guy. But I don't see how he could bring up his back to the point where he would be in the top 5. I don't see it. And I do, I know that he's had some stomach issues. He had an ulcer, and he had all sorts of, he had a jaw broken and everything else, and that that prevented his training. And now he says, this year he's 100% healthy and everything else. And I know that he's with Chris Psycho training. And Chris does things from different angles, and he takes some mesh between his style and Charles Glass. And they're trying to build him a back, a back that's a world-class back. But I just don't see it. Especially, I think he's in his 40s. He might be in his upper 40s. Late 30s. I mean, I just don't see him building a back after 5 years of everybody pointing out that he does not have a world-class back.
Well, I don't think it's hard to. I don't like it when people pick out one body part or not, because there's been many Olympians who have had weak body parts and still won. So I don't think that's going to hold him back necessarily. Yes, I get it.
From the back.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I totally get it. But I I don't think that's going to be the reason. I don't know. Again, like I feel like it's more. I don't know. I really don't know. I haven't talked to Sean for a little bit. So last I talked to him several months ago, he was pretty on top of his game. It sounded like, and I know Chris Lewis, which is Psycho Fitness. I used to actually coach Chris. So
I didn't know that.
yeah. He's a great guy. I've known him since when I lived in California years ago. I've been around the block, my friend. But
you know what? I saw him over in Las Vegas. And the name of the gym is escaping me right now. It's not LVAC. It's a smaller gym.
Oh yeah.
And I will tell you that man is possibly one of the most imposing looking people in the whole entire world.
Chris Lewis? Chris?
And I don't know. Yeah.
I'll tell you, here's the funny thing. When you talk to him, he's the nicest dude. He doesn't have an intimidating voice. He's light. My voice is 10 times deeper than his. And
really?
Yeah, he's a very imposing guy. He's a big fella, and he's got a big frame. He's got lots of muscle, but he's the nicest guy. As a matter of fact, he comes to my house one time. I was when I was coaching him, I was doing his diet and stuff, and it was my birthday, and he brought me a new set of Nikes. He was like, "Hey man, I just thought it'd be nice, man. Thought it was happy birthday." I'm like, "I knew it was your birthday." I'm like, "Fuck, dude, thanks, bro." I'm like, "You didn't have to do that." I still got those shoes.
I saw him at the Lift Factory with Dexter. Now, it could be because, it was the day before. I think it was 2 days before the Olympia last year. And he looked like he wanted to eat somebody's lunch. So I was like, yeah, I'm staying away from you, dude. I'm going to be over in that corner over there. I want no parts of you. And that was the end of that. I did not say hello. I did not say hello to Dexter. And also in that year, Cedric came in during while I was working out, and it was after prejudging, and you did not want to be anywhere near Cedric.
I don't like it when guys get all moody and shit after shows. I can understand being a little down. I can understand being maybe a little disappointed. But man, you're doing shit you love, hopefully, and you're getting paid for it. But more importantly, keep the shit in perspective. Like, this is here to teach you something. If you weren't good enough to be the obvious winner, then you need to learn something. It's time to shut the fuck up and listen to what's going on and move toward what you want. That's what it's time for. It's not time to sit there and be moody and blame people and point fingers and say, oh, complain about this, or say the judges are doing politics or this or that. Or I get it. I totally get it, man. It doesn't feel fair sometimes, but because you put so much into it, and you know how good you are. But everybody else knows it too. And all they do is they take value away from their brand. They take value away from them. They take value away from the sport. But more importantly, they hold themselves away from getting what they really want, which is the victory. You hold yourself back when you have a shitty ass attitude, or you give somebody lip about it or whatever. You hold yourself back from your greatness. You hold yourself back. You do. Nobody else is doing it at that point. You may not have gotten the score you wanted. You may not have gotten the call you wanted. But man, now it's up to you. What are you going to do?
Yeah, because Cedric, and we didn't put Cedric in the top 5 either. And he wasn't in the top 5 last year, and he shouldn't have been in the top 5 last year. And he shouldn't have been in the top, I think he got 7th or 8th. I didn't agree with that placing at all either. I've seen Cedric twice. I know people thought Cedric looked more like Cedric in San Marino, but I didn't think that he was in condition. In fact, I could have made an argument that Hadi Choopan actually beat him.
Oh.
just because one, he did not out-muscle Hadi, but he out-physiqued Hadi. But he did not out-condition Hadi. So if there's 3 criteria, right, he got one of the 3 criteria. So that to me meant that Hadi won. But that's just my opinion. But when I saw Cedric in Canada, I thought he was way off. And I saw a guest posing, I believe, he was with Rosie Raska in China. and I don't. He looked about the same as he did when he was in Canada.
Well, you
There
know,
wasn't really a wow there. Yeah, but he's not known for conditioning.
well,
That's not something he's known for.
there's no doubt. So we're gonna have to. I got another radio show to record here. Actually, I'm on this really cool radio show. I'm going to be a guest tonight. It's called Event Horizon. It's this really cool podcast. It's like 2 hours long. So we're going to wrap this up. But I do want to say one thing about Cedric, because I love Cedric. I love his physique. I think he's a great bodybuilder. I think he's one of the greats. But I do think that he's not. So to be a great bodybuilder, there's a lot of great bodybuilders. But to be Mr. Olympia, to be a winner at one of these shows, you got to be more than just a great bodybuilder. You have to be great. And I know that sounds kind of funny to say. And Cedric, he doesn't perform great all the time. He doesn't really show, like, he's got all the right pieces. He's got all the right materials. But so do a lot of other bodybuilders. And you really have to do a bit more than that. You have to, no matter what anybody says, no matter what you have to impress. You have to really, really do that. And I love his physique. I think he's got the raw materials to be a really wonderful bodybuilder. He already is, but to win more shows than he has. I definitely believe that. But something's not quite all the way there, and I don't know exactly sometimes. And I don't. To me, he lacks a quality in his physique that gives me that wow factor. He's got it in symmetry. He's got it in size, and he's got it in shape. He doesn't have it in hardness. He doesn't have it in that really sinewy shreddedness that some guys get. You don't have to have all that, but you got to have something. You got to have something that when, like, Rolly walks out there, he's got it. He walks out and you're like, whoa, holy crap.
Yeah. I mean, you may not love
I like Cedric's physique so much better. But when Rolly walks out, I'm like, whoa, holy motherfucker. I was like, in my mind, I think to myself, that's bodybuilding. You know
exactly. And that's my point is I really, I'm a big Rolly fan. I love Freak.
I know you do.
But I can also say, I can appreciate somebody's physique like Nathan Diasha that has that nice symmetry to it, that has that nice flow and everything, that has a really great combination. I appreciate that because there are things about his muscularity and his body and his structure and his conditioning that point out the fact that, he is a contender. But with Cedric, I don't feel the same way. I think he's a great bodybuilder. I think he's a great personality. He has an awesome personality. And I think he's a great ambassador for bodybuilding. I just can't get excited about his physique, especially when he doesn't come really conditioned.
Right.
He does have that very classical physique that everybody loves.
Yeah, and again,
and maybe it's because he's very, very tall, and I am not very tall.
Well, I do think he's got a wonderful physique, and I think he's definitely got all the winning materials. Like I said, he just has got to get that wow factor, and and I don't know what that's something different for each bodybuilder. You know what I mean? And so he's going to figure out that. He hasn't figured that quite out just yet completely, I think. But he's going to have to if he wants to win. Otherwise, he's going to continue to be the almost one guy. And I don't think he'll beat. I mean, he won't beat Rolly. He won't beat, he's not going to, he's just going to, I think he's going to have another disappointing year if he doesn't. But I could be completely wrong. He could come out this year and be like smoking awesome and get and catch his stride. So I really hope that. I think to me, it always boils down to, I always say stuff like this because you can kind of expect it, but it boils down to drive and mindset and where are you focused at, and because that makes the difference. That really connects the dots when you're trained. I think Brandon did that. I think to a certain degree Rami has gotten most of that. I think he's got to still get. I think Rolly definitely's got it, man. For whatever reason, these guys are connecting the dots, and it has to do with where their mind is at. It has to do with where they're focused. This is the reason why I kind of feel like this is why I said I don't want Nathan to be I feel like I'm dogging him because I love the dude and I love his physique. I friggin' really like his physique, but I think his mind is somewhere else, and I think that's the reason why he's going to drop out of the top. He won't make the top 10, or he may make the top 10, but he won't make the top 5. And I think he should be in the top 5.
Yeah, I don't think he will make the top 5, and I think that, and I'll be interested to know if he does not make the top 10, whether or not he goes back to Kuwait, because Kuwait, Bader has extended an open invitation to Nathan because there is no bad blood there.
Right.
According to both of them. So he could go back to Kuwait. He could very well get his businesses together and everything else and go back to Kuwait. Or either that, or he could get his business together and then after his businesses are more together, meaning his gym is open and everything, then focus solely on, his prep.
Well,
he may...
I hate to do this, Nigel. I gotta call into my this next.
Yep.
But so this week, great. I think we had a great talk about the Olympia this week. And next week, let's talk about the 212s. What do you say?
Oh yeah, that's gonna be
fun. I love the 212s. It's always been the most exciting. This year, for me, the Open is the most exciting division. But in previous years, it's always been the 212s that's been more exciting because the competitors who was competing. But this year, to me, I'm more excited about the Open. So next week we'll talk about the 212s. We'll come up with some other stuff. But thank you, Nigel. Sorry about the flat. I'm so glad you got your tire fixed. But and next week we'll we'll talk about the 212s and the Olympia. What's coming up? It's only a short 30 days away. So the Olympia is 30 days away.
I do have some homework for you. I heard a rumor, and maybe you can figure this out. I heard a rumor that 212 is going away for the Arnold.
Oh, I don't know. That I'll do some research. I'll ask the peoples.
Because I will be sad if that happens.
If that's the case, I'll be sad too. I really, really hope that's not the case.
I hope it's not the case, because the 212 is to me, for the last 4 years, it's been the best part of the Olympia and the Arnold.
Absolutely. Well, with that, having said that, man, thank you, Nigel. This has been an awesome session. We're going to do another one for this next week. Next week, we'll get it out a little earlier, too. This one's a little late. We'll get releasing this one late this week. But next week, for everybody, send in, and I want to encourage everyone to email me or Nigel and send in some stuff, questions or topics, anything you want us to talk about. We're gonna be doing this stuff every week. So thank you so much for me, Tad, the Diet Coach, and Nigel Lomax for the Tad Lowe Show. Thank you so much.